Alright, so this is her upper pattern, the outside part. So we are going to stitch all the edges and this part where we have silver pen right here. This silver pen, we also have the video inside, the video that deals with how to brobe. We have you can get how to derive all these lines right there. So we are going to stitch all the edges first, then thereafter all this line underneath. Then we are also going to stitch, there's a part that we have marked here. It's just a kind of design, a form of design. It's nothing special. We just dotted it like that on the pattern and we marked it on this red part. It's nothing special. It wasn't part of the pattern. We just brought it in impromptu so as to give it some other form of design. So we are stitching the toe cap first. When you stitch, you want to make sure your stitches are uniform and you want to make sure they are not too far from the edge. So you can see what we have here. So after now we are going to stitch this line right here. So to stitch that line, we are going to go this way. You don't have to be fast. You can put your machine in slow mode and stitch just like this, or if you are using this kind of machine, you can just simply stitch with your hand, rolling the head of the machine. Alright, so this is what stitching it looks like. That's pretty much the same thing we are going to do all over the length of the video. So let's continue by stitching this part right here. This is a flatbed machine. It will be very much easier if you are using a post bed or cylindrical bed machine. So we are done stitching the back, the front, so we are left with this part and this little part right here. So let's quickly see. So we are going to start stitching the underside also. It is very much easier stitching this underside because we have this guide lines here. So what I'm just doing is to just follow it. So now we are almost done stitching our hopper. We are left with this little part here. We're going to stitch and we hope it shows here. So let's do it. That's the last part before we go ahead to stitch the lining. So this is what our upper looks like. So showing it, you can see the beautiful set of stitches running across, and this is just kind of elegant here. It's just forming this kind of wave. It's on the other side also, as you can see, and this is just so beautiful. We are just going to trim out the threads and move forward to this other one. We are going to stitch this one. We only have few parts to stitch here. I think we are going to stitch it off the camera. We are going to stitch this part straight, then this part also, especially at this front part. That's we are going to stitch it from. So we've been able to stitch the lining together. You can see what it looks like already. Now we are going to trim all this thread off. For us to be able to trim them, all you just need to do is turn to the back, then this strand of thread that is here, just pull it, so that we'll pull this one. Instead of burning it outside, we won't have to burn it. Just pull it and just draw it. You can see it's not there anymore. We are going to do the same thing for this. Just pull this thread. By the time you pull it, you'll be able to pull in this thread, then you'll be able to cut it inside without having to burn anything outside. See, so this is what it looks like. You can see we are going to do that just for everything. Then we trim. For this part, we need yeah, so the two of them are gone right there. So we are left with this one that's trying to prove a lot stubborn. Yeah, just a little bit more, then it will be out. Okay, so what's holding you from coming out exactly? Here. So we are going to trim, and we can burn inside to avoid the thread from losing. You can see right there. Now the next thing to do is to put tape at this edge, starting from this part here. Okay, let's turn over now to see it well. From this part right here all the way to the back right here. Then we are going to do the same thing for here, for this part to this part. So after putting the tape, that is when we are going to now fix our lining to the leather. So because we are doing a brown shoe, we are going to use a very light brown material like this. You can see it is very tiny, although they are commercially prepared tape for this purpose, reinforcement tape. Because of we really can't get access to them, that is why we have to just improvise and make our own, and they have been working really very well. So we are just going to use this material because it is very light, and also it is very scratch resistant. It's when you scratch it, it can't really peel very fast. So to make tape for any shoe, you need to measure the part where the tape has to go, tape on top. So we are using our measuring tape. So measure from here like this, round. This is just a rough measurement sort of to the center. Now this is showing 24, right? So we are going to cut our tape to be 24 centimeter. Let's see. We are going to cut our tape to be 24 centimeters. Now this is 26. Let's just make it 25 for safety reasons. So your tape doesn't have to be tiny. It just has to be around let's just say 1.2 centimeters. So it doesn't have to be big. So we are going to be cutting 2 for each leg. So one come this way while the other one goes that way. In case you have the luxury of long length of material, then that way you can cut double size. If we are to cut 24 here, then that way it means you have to cut 48, right? Just in case you have short material, that's why we are cutting short. We can as well use this side so that we can just cut it at a stretch and save ourselves a lot of stress. Please, the long ruler. So we are going to be using this longer ruler to cut 48. Yeah, so this is 48 right here. So let's just cut it like so. So we'll be cutting just 2 of these, and it will be enough for the 2 legs. But if you don't have the luxury of this kind of long material, you can just cut it half like we were going to do in the first instance. So cut and make it straight as much as possible. You can use whatever you want to use to cut it, but just make sure it's straight. It really doesn't have to be very straight, but just make sure what you're cutting is correct. So we're going to cut like this. You can see this tape is just some few millimeters above 1 centimeter. So this is the one for this leg we are doing right now. So what we have to do now is to fold this material we have to apply some gum now, and yet again, this is a regular OCI gum. You have to put gum on every part. Yeah, like that, like that. So after putting some gum here, we have to lay it down first to allow it to dry off. At the same time, we are going to put some gum just at the edge of our material. Okay. Just at the edge. You have to be very, very careful when you are applying gum here. So as not to stain the other side of the suede with gum. So let it sit just like this. You have to make sure that this part is not crossing under this part, so that the gum under the surface will not stick to this part. So our gum has dried out. So we need to fold this thing a little bit closer. We need to fold this little piece of material 1/3. That is, we are not, if we are to fold it equally, then we have something like this, but we are not folding it to be equal. We want to fold it 1/3 like this. You can see what's happening here. We are not folding them to be equal. We are not folding it to be equal. Rather, we are making it to be about 1/3 of the entire width. So as such, we will have one part to be thicker, then the other part will be lighter. So that's what we are going to do along the entire length of this little strap. Yeah, we are almost done. We are almost done. We are almost done. Almost done. Almost done. Right there. Now we are done. So see what it looks like. So just with your fingertip, just apply some pressure. So we have this part that is full of the material, while this inside part has one part folded about 1/3 or just a little bit above, right? So I feel this is very easy to do. So we are going to apply, you are going to turn over to the back just like this. Now you see this part, we are going to turn over to this part that has the full material. Then we are going to apply some gum right on it. This time we'll be using a cutting board to apply the gum, because we don't want the gum staining everywhere. So we are just putting gum along the length. make sure you're not baking it thick so that to dry off very quickly and easily. Yeah. So this is just what we want. So we are going to leave it for about a few seconds, let's say 30 seconds, and I just feel it is dried already and we can use it now. So we come here and we lay the tape just at the edge. Now we are going to start off at this part. We are going to start off at this part right here, and we are going to run it through the entire length. So this is how to fix it. If you can come a little bit closer to see what is happening here. Now this is how to fix it. Now making sure this one is flat. We want to align the two and be aware that we are using the put gum on this surface, so that's what we are laying down. Keep laying it down. As soon as you get to this part, you can just use your fingertip to raise it and make sure it aligns. So you are going to have something like this right here popping, right? So we keep going, we keep going. By the time you get to this part of the neck, you need to start cutting straight. You need to start cutting straight. Make sure you're not cutting off the entire tape. You are just cutting a little bit. So that will make it possible for you to bend. So as you bend, this part will open up by itself. So to make it very easy, just lie it flat like this and keep moving. Keep moving, don't stop moving. Don't stop moving. And make sure it's flat. When you get to the back, so as soon as you get here, also cross over to the other side. You should also make it flat like this. Then as soon as you get to this part where you cross over, you probably need to cut. In some other instance, you might not need to cut if the material is very flexible and stretchy. But to be on the safe side, you just should cut. So yet again, when you get to this part, all you need to do is to make sure this edge and this edge are in alignment like this. You see? Then you lay it flat. Then you are going to get this part bulging up. That should tell you that you are doing the right thing. Then you keep moving on a straight line until you finally get to the bus stop right here. Then you cut them to be equal. You don't want one to be short and the other long. So afterwards, you're going to cut this part that is bulging also so that it will remain flat. Then this part. Now our pattern is now fully taped, and you can see the beautiful double layer right here. So this is the point where we now lay this part down, okay, and we glue this part to the lining also, like this, before we finally get to the machine again to stitch it. So how do we do that? Okay, open this a bit and cut it just at this point. Yeah, so because this material is very thick, so we won't need to put any form of reinforcement for the highlight. If this material were to be light, we'll need something to reinforce the highlight. So now let's add some purple stick to some gum to our lining. Now this is how to put gum right here. Make sure your gum doesn't touch any of these lines that goes around. Make sure your gum doesn't touch any of those, so that it will be easy for you to trim off the excess. So put some gum here on this side, then also at this front part. We are going to do the same for so the only caution you have to take is to avoid gum from coming in contact with this line. So after putting your gum, you can see where the gum is. So the rest part of the back, you don't want to put gum because we are yet to add the back stiffener or the back stay. So what we have to do is to put gum underneath this line, also taking caution to not allow the gum to touch the line. To not allow the gum to touch the line. You have to always remember that. So we keep it, then we do the same for our material right here. So for this part, you pull gum and be conscious of not allowing the gum to get to the tape. So when you rub your gum, make sure it's not touching the tape. The tape is the equivalent of the line on the lining. It will save you a lot of stress if you don't allow your gum to touch your what's it called? Your tape. So now that we are done, what we need to do is to turn this to its rightful position, and this just this manner. Then you see this tip right here, this bent tip. We are going to fix it on this side. You can see this part that is bent, so we are going to fix that first. Then thereafter we are going to fix the back, this center on this. So let's do that right now. Then this part here, this line is going to stay on this line. So first we fix this and we bring this to the center line right here. We do the same for its other parts. Bring them to the center line. Yeah. Then for this we simply put it right here. This is the center. Then we adjust the entire body to meet each other like that, and thus we are good to go. We are good to go. So all we need to do right now is to stitch. You can see what's looking like at the back. So we just need to use our hand to dress it until it's properly fixed. So this is the inside part of our shoe and the outside part of our shoe. So we need to stitch from here round down here, and excuse me, that is all about the upper pattern. Before we go ahead to fix the back stiffener, then we last the shoe. So this is what our upper looks like. We have fixed our lining to the outside part, so we are going to stitch it. If you have a post bed, you are just going to put it like this and stitch it round. But if you have a flat bed like this, you will need to turn it over inside out like this. That is one of the advantages of post bed and cylindrical bed. But this is just also easy. It's not as hard as you probably think it is. So let's stitch. We are going to stitch from right here we are going to return the stitch right there. Then we continue stitching with our brown thread. The brown thread is giving a nice contrast, giving the red some. You can see what's going on there. Alright, so that's all about stitching. You can see what the stitch looks like at the back, behind. So we need to trim off this part. We just put our scissors right here like this and walk it through. So if you put your gum up to the line and you put gum on this tape, it will be very hard for you to cut it off this easily. So that's why we keep shouting, don't put gum there, don't put gum here, put gum here and not there. You want to cut it as close as possible, and you also have to be mindful of the thread. You don't want to cut off the thread also in the process of trying to trim very closely. Yeah, we're good. So let's draw out some stitch. Yeah, and our hopper is just about to be ready. But for the tongue, now we are going to punch this part. You can see this hole right here, this mark right here, this two. We are going to punch it with size 0.5. The same mark is on the tongue. We are going to punch that too, and we are going to use thread to hold them together, and that's the end of the upper making for our shoe, before we now proceed to the lasting procedure. Alright, so to finish up our upper, we are going to attach the tongue to the upper using these 2 points here and this part. So we are just going to punch on the tongue with a size 1, while for the this part we are going to punch with size 0.5. So after which we are going to use our needle and thread to hold it together. So use your hand to hold this part down. Pass it about 2 times before we eventually get to, oh boy, so this one will enter through the side like that. Then this one is going to come through again. Then you draw so that everything will be very much tight. Yeah. So you keep repeating the process again and again. Go. Come again. You stretch it. Then for the last time, so this is the last time now. So for this last time, we are going to pass the needle underneath the entire thread. Some few times. Under the thread, some few times. Just so as to make it very strong. Before we finally pass it through, and we do the same for this part. Pass it underneath. Then we'll pass it right here like this, and we'll remove it from underneath like that, just the way we started with these two. And we are going to cut it right there. So for this video, that's the method of attachment of the tongue to the upper. Now there's one more step we skipped, which is actually putting the eyelet on putting the eyelet hose right on this mark. Just before, we are supposed to do that before we added the tongue, but then it's still very much possible. We are just going to punch our hose right here. For this instance, we are using size 3 or 3.5. loud. And this one on this side. Yeah, for this side we do pretty much the same thing. So that's it. What's this one? Our eyelids and our tongue right there. So that's all about this hopper. You can see we've got a nice looking shoe. Nice Oxford looking, nice looking Oxford shoe right there. So let's proceed to last our shoe.